Welcome to a battlefield of minds. Two grandmasters face off where every move cuts like a sword. One mistake, and it's over. This isn't just chess. It's war disguised as strategy. Let's dive in, move by move, into this epic clash. White's Mesgen Amanov storms the center with 1. d4. Staking a bold territorial claim and announcing he's here to fight for space and initiative from move 1. Black's Wesley So replies 1. Henon Shilowin, Hebokio. N10. Panis. N. Escalating. Nf6. Developing a knight to a natural square. Eyeing e4 and d5 while keeping his king's future safety in mind. Amanov plays 2 positional, and bases. c4. Challenging the center and inviting complications. The pawn thrust pressures d5 and aims to open lines for White's bishops. So answers 2. Na Diokon, for the Nintiller was Sena, and Bina Wodonis Sepanda the away. And honest, k. g6. Preparing a fianchetto for his dark squared bishop, and building a hipster fortress that hides razor-sharp counterplay. Mesgen advances 3 posturing, Henyasin, Shiwabuan Moridestikazistan. G3. Mirroring structure and readying his own kingside fianchetto, subtle symmetry that promises a slow burning. Strategic duel, Doubting. Wesley develops 3 piston. And infinity. Indispenny. T. Bg7. His bishop lands on the long diagonal like a sniper. Eyes down the center, and latent kingside tactics. Amanov brings out 4. Bg2. Chue. Completing his fianchetto and adding firepower to the long diagonal. Harmony and patience from White's camp. The thrusts for Pantry. Int contims. N. L. Ilmi. Infamias and a castan a sea courage say, and how can sire? Day 5. Striking the center immediately, he's not waiting for White. He wants to rip open lines and test Mesgen's setup. Mesgen captures 5 doti. Cx5. Opening the c-file and creating an early pawn exchange that invites tactical skirmishes in the center of the board. Wesley recaptures 5 to stone. Almisin. Ananinisiraya. Inkst 5. His knight leaps into the fray. Centralizes on d5 and threatens to unsettle White's center with active piece play. Amanov develops 6 Pordin. Mundani ken, Ixtennis aniwarabuk 4. Nf3. Bringing his knight into the boxing ring to guard a5. Support d4 and prepare quick castle safety. So castle's 6th point he win. Panwoinchemigen is the 6th time. Unisel. And an alcohol. Anecdote. Oh. Tucking his king away behind pawns and signaling, he's ready to play dynamically with king safely positioned. Mesgen castles himself with 7. Oh. Matching Wesley's safety move, both kings now shielded. The arena is set for complex middle game fireworks. Wesley Route 7 Porten. Touch so make N, Pendish Imish to meet for. Yes, Inter. Alien.Amenson, Omening this Seaward, and now well visits. NB6. Moving the knight to B6 to control C4 and A4 squares. A patient repositioning with hidden teeth. Amanov plays 8 to NC3. A natural developing move that increases central control and eyes the D5 square for future breakthroughs. So answers A toys. None. Anandiman, Petyamis Custamiwe di Shodana the Soline, Bandidina, at Gal, Inoki Chow. Oshun, Penamis, and a subordinate, Hunkan Machana. NG6. Developing another knight and contesting the center. Pieces converge in tension, along D4 D5 starts to thicken. Mesgen modestly supports center with 9, Polch. E3. Framing his dark square bishop and preparing coordinated play. Solid but waiting for the right moment. Wesley centralizes his rook with 9. Interdon. Onomate Sepsualian. Panabendi when storage senden. Monday. Is you not for a day, and if so new, in your G. Rate. Panic. Aiming to support e-pawn breaks and put the rook on the e-file where skirmishes usually ignite. Amanov plays 10 porit in milk. Pazidiwa is 2 endioin, the bishtisioni. Rioni. Mirroring black's rook lift and signaling readiness to contest the e-file. Discipline and symmetry from white. Zo expands on the wing with 10 whites. Under high. Anna. Afiv. Gaining space on the queen side, and hinting at a future, a foul push to pry open enemy structure. Mesgen plays 11, Toro, Tamdolis. QA2. A modest queen lift that connects rooks and keeps an eye on e-file and potential kingside tactics. Wesley develops 11, Torio Wort, Case. Physics. His bishop comes to life. Targeting the queenside and preparing to trade or occupy strong diagonals. Very flexible. Amanov, slides 12. Ardoni. Putting a rook on the d-file. Reinforcing the d4 pawn and preparing to contest central files if tension explodes. So response 12. Pendian. Pencheniu. Twiwin. Pendon. Penjabiche. And Bureau Caestis. BC4. A cheeky bishop hop to c4 that eyes b3 and d3 squares. Threatening pins and making white sweat. Mesgen retreats his queen to 13. QC2, with keeping it safe and aiming to contest the now bruised light squares while watching the c-file. Wesley pushes 13, taut. And T. A4 with serious intent. Grabbing queenside space and planting a pawn that will harass white's structure and blunt minor pieces. Amanov, Zeitzes the center, with 14 pen. E4. A crucial pawn thrust that opens lines. stakes bold central control and invites tactical fireworks. So replays with 14 pen. You Relentless is a men in 10. Emphasis at Tolstaniwal, Tibetania Woolen, and that. N. NB4. A knight jump into white's territory. Targeting C2 and D3 squares, and threatening to cause mayhem near white's queen. Mesgen steps with 15. Kibione, Fieberissi, Inpendione, Inderson. Keeping the queen safe from forks while maintaining pressure. He's threading the needle under fire. Wesley counters, 15 Torinoin, Dancing. Angela Nindan. C5, Chepto. Striking at white's center. Opening diagonals and demanding Mesgen decide whether to trade or suffer cramped lines. Amanov develops 16. Torneo is anisted. E3. Bringing the bishop to an active post to challenge black's pieces and eyeball the c5 pawn's influence. So plants his bishop deeply with 16. BD3. An aggressive outpost that invades white's camp and threatens to create tactical pinning motifs. Mesgen reacts with 17. XD3. Sacrificing or exchanging a rook to blunt that invasive bishop and simplify the explosive tension in the center. Wesley recaptures 17. Paul Widio win to basic case. Menan. Plunging more with a sen. Penshikobazen. He was stolen. Benjidestigat. End. Next 3. His knight eats on d3. Landing powerfully inside white's position and creating menacing threats around the king. Amanov answers 18 pin. QXD3. Exchanging queenside pressure for structure. His queen recaptures the knight. Equalizing material but shifting dynamics. So sharpens the center with 18. Onen. Indonesia. Idina D. Pol. And CX4. Opening the C-file and releasing a passed pawn potential, while forcing white to reckon with a fractured center. Mesgen Yumps with 19 Olwe. Angst 4. A knight capture that reclaims material. Fights for central squares. And aims to neutralize black's pawn break. Wesley responds 19. And then, Penning sales as an enemy. And Unios. F5. A dynamic pawn thrust that hits the knight and aims to blow open central lines. He's playing for blood. Amanov retreats 20. NDA5. Relocating his knight to d5, where it eyes critical squares and imposes pressure on black's precarious central pawns. So captures 20 turns. Anandijan. Anindan. X4. Penoi is the beta pending. Tumora machine. Taking back on d4 and opening more channels. Tension spikes as pawns tumble and pieces fight for open files. Mesgen calmly replies, 21, Pestilentium. Bx4. His bishop captures on d4. Stabilizing the center and trading off central pawns, to reduce black's initiative. Wesley responds, 21, Tetanadash. Omano Bannan, or the Jandikadis, and headed was Inoluba. And bx4. Exchanging bishops and forcing further simplification. Trying to convert active piece play into concrete threats. Amanov recaptures 22 a day. Adisio Wilson to practice. Qx4. His queen takes back on d4. Centralizes powerfully and keeps tabs on both flanks. White regains material balance. So answers 22 tet pen. Shh. Oh, Escalating, and new was chatne, albeit nakin, and nejeste. Inkst 5. His knight jumps to d5, capturing something, a piece pawn. Intruding into white's camp and threatening to fracture coordination. Mesgen captures 23, Pes. x5. Opening an e-file pawn and creating pass-pawn dynamics. He counters with counterplay and a simmering connected passer. Wesley plants 23, Towandiwan, and Melbourne Vesanis, Testesiwan. Ines Chi. Menden. Pandi Shernan. Panestelin. He. Kichi 6. His queen slides to d6 to coordinate defense and offense. Controlling key diagonals and eyeballing white's exposed king. Amanov plays 24, Deton, Ested Yenwadibunested. A3. A modest pawn move that prevents knight hops to b4 and prepares for queenside tension. Slow, but purposeful. So mobilizes his rook with 24. Enten. Inyanoni. Ejal undiaye. Race 8. Bringing heavy artillery to the c-file and signaling a plan to dominate open lines and invade white's position. Mesgen captures 25. Qef4. Messekshamarubanesiwajista itshazime. Greedily snatching a pawn on afar and grabbing material while exposing his queen to potential counterplay. Risk with reward. Wesley counterstrikes 25 Detetion. Histaborn when name Williams and destination. Petsene Hante strikes 25. And in T. Din. Re 2. Kick. A spectacular rook lift to E2. Invading white's second rank and threatening to wreak havoc near Amanov's king. Amanov retreats 26. QD4. Dead. Bringing the queen back to safety while keeping tactical options alive and eyeing the d-file for countermeasures. So piles up on the c-file with 26. Antininan. Anindasumnelwal. Ray CT Fu. Doubling rooks and creating a heavy-handed battery that targets c2 and the rear of white's camp by Tuin. Mesgen plays 27 Tuin. Adone, Edin Mes Ketian. Bringing his rook to challenge black's dominance on the d-file and trying to untangle his cramped pieces. Wesley ruthlessly grabs 27. Testadore notiro nome. Hated Non. Indalbuus. Olokizes. In. RxBD2. And K. His rook gobbles a pawn on b2. Tearing open white's queenside and turning material advantage into mating threats. Amanov calmly develops 28. bf3, endgame. A defensive bishop move that aims to guard key squares and prepare counterplay against black's invasive rooks. So sacrifices tastefully with 28. Nin. Ndmgni. F2. Will win this, anti-urin, windy. His rook crashes into f2, capturing material and aiming to dismantle white's king's shelter. Aggression, dialed to 11. Mesgen recaptures, 29, poor. QESF2. Using his queen to trade off attacking rooks and relieve immediate pressure, simplifying into an unbalanced endgame. Wesley replies 29. Nyon. Nyon Chenan. RxF2. His other rook captures back on f2, grabbing material and keeping white's king under severe scrutiny. Amanov accepts 30. Kf2. His king steps forward to capture the intruding rook, centralizing the monarch while entering a sharp, open battlefields to Sonne and battlefields toward 10. So calmly plays 30. Ondere and Ben Penchi. Ande. Quite. Sidestepping with the king to a safe square, while keeping rook and queen networks ready for the final assault. Mesgen pushes, 31, Mesgen A4. Advancing a pawn to attack black's queenside structure and hoping to create luft or distractions for Wesley's forces. Wesley checks with 31. Tostin. Penemotains. O Benden. Ebesat. Indesiului. Ididalaye. Husife. His queen slashes onto c5, giving check, forcing white's king into awkward squares and dictating the tempo. Amanov steps 32 to Ketu, moving his king toward relative safety but into the center, a brave, necessary shuffle under severe pressure. So storms with 32. And all in a sense from my Hennestesh, Identian, Inadim and the word Wawisher, Ente, Isa. And QC21T, QNC Winden, Hensale, Teduruk Steburdai. His queen checks again from c2, probing weaknesses and hunting for tactical motifs to exploit white's exposed king. Mesgen replies 33. 82 A, blocking the check and throwing his rook into the path like a shield. Desperate defense but full of heart. Wesley greedily captures 33. End of day. N. QS4. Snatching another pawn and increasing material advantage, while his queen prowls dangerously close to white's monarch. Amanov presses with 34. Dix. Pushing a passed pawn that grows teeth, Mesgen seeks counterplay and tries to distract Wesley from his mating net. So repositions, 34. Pesh. On Tiu. Penisenonin, Pedesel Rook, Penman, on the Jat. Anitonome. Kite. His king retreats a step to consolidate, tucking into the background while coordinating remaining pieces for the decisive thrust. Mesgen storms, 35. Pestirindes in a chain, in Jedenu Perulo Stonayan. E7. Ke. En move 7. Penesia. A glorious passed pawn advance, checking the king and creating real existential threats that demand instant calculation. Wesley calmly responds, 35 30. Nimber. Intendency. Gates. Sidestepping the check and methodically neutralizing the passer, while keeping his pieces poised for a counterpunch. Amanov plays, 36. A3. A practical luft and prophylactic move that prevents back-rank threats and readies kingside breathing room. So expands on the queen side with 36. A. N. Estes Saint-Trai. E5. Pushing pawns to blunt white's afar, and open more lines for his queen and remaining rook. Mesgen Amanov, 37. Tongdese, Iwang tennis 7. Baby 7. Tenayas. Activating his bishop into the enemy half like a skirmisher. Eyeing critical squares and threatening to disrupt black's pawn chain. Wesley fires a checking shot, 37. Unterenses. Kate. QC4A. He was in a wound, and reached in a 74, tectonized series away. His queen darts to c4, giving check, and forcing white to respond while keeping initiative in black's hands. Amanov defends with 38. RD3. His rook intercepts the check and tries to regroup defenses while the clock of danger keeps ticking. So pushes, 38, 30. Nin. And even. Neomiwa. F5. A ferocious pawn thrust that opens lines. Activates his queen and rook battery. And tries to pry open white's fragile king shelter. Mesgen replies, 39, Towinuki. BD5. Centralizing his bishop to block lines and aiming to trade down, calm resourcefulness amid chaos. Wesley checks with 39. Inidei, da, adimsei. Ii, assumesan, enani, he, enisin, anane sure. QC2 onkin, este, n. His queen strikes again to keep white's king dancing and to probe for tactical weaknesses. Amanov answers, 40, PA. Heir D2E. Sliding his rook back to D2 to parry the check, and attempt to neutralize black's active queen. So shifts, 40. And unma. Al-Niu. QC, 3. His queen lands on C3. Hovering ominously near white's king and preying on loose pawns and tactical motifs. Mesgen retreats, 41, Terste. Bf3. His bishop falls back to guard key squares and shore up the king's defenses. A quiet but critical move. Wesley storms forward with 41. Au. Menowidin. Enotman se, isichain. B4. A dangerous pawn push that threatens to open files and smash white's kingside shelter from the flank. Amanov counters, 42. Pitbull RD3. Mo Daniel Rage says Sedek Turbinen. Enepedip wants to say. Repositioning his rook to D3 to block invasion routes and keep his king slightly safer in the melee. Zo gives another check, 42. in anointia, anonim, and then said okay, and canon, eliminanis. And QC21, and domain and movement QC212. His queen glides back to C2 checking, and maintaining dizzying pressure while calculating lethal continuations. Mesgen plays 43, Penalbro Kunuan, and Nailbo assist. RD2, A. Interposing the rook again like a sponge for checks. Trading time for piece activity and survival instinct kicking in. Wesley calmly repositions, 43. Indian. In Mesgen, Pendo Korea said. QA7, Handomon Decisive. Tucking his queen to 7, where it coordinates with pawns and prepares final infiltration plans, patient and brutal. Amanov, Thrusts 4410, Tiding Mesgen, Hundestian. D4, J. Furistin, and Bennett. Trying to rip open black's kingside, or create counterchances. A desperate, brave move seeking to unbalance Wesley's domination. So counters, with 44, Pen, Invention, Penegen, and Descent. In India. Anstanden, Demi, Amorina Buo, and now I. QHA21, Insen, Muadonis. His queen slices to H2, delivering a sharp check that smells of mating nets and decisive tactics. Mesgen, steps 45, Pinway. K3. Walking his king into the center to escape checks and cling to life despite the storm of enemy pieces. Wesley captures 45. Tuning. Moin. Inbondiesta. QXH3. The queen gobbles a pawn on H3. Increases material advantage, and tightens the noose around white's exposed monarch. Amanov fires back 46. JSF5. Capturing on F5 with the G-pawn, an explosive pawn trade that opens lines and tries to create counterplay. So recaptures 46, Pistum den Origin, Hundestable Messenger. Endedi. Onmina. QSF5. His queen takes on 5. Centralizes into white's territory and keeps dominating trajectories while converting advantages. Mesgen plays 47, Pendawono Wesil. D3. Bringing his rook back to D3, to shield the king, and contest the crucial D-file under crushing conditions. Wesley plows forward, 47, Penrage Sin. Owen, Daniel. Nestokli, understandary gesteo, Kajisan, Ulenyogaral Messiah. D3. Pawn storms to B3, threatening to promote or open decisive lines. Relentless queenside pressure now turns lethal. Amanov bravely plays 48. KDD4. Marching his king deeper into the battlefield, seeking survival and counterattacking chances. But Wesley's forces have already sealed the fate. The video ends here. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time. Please don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thank you again. Everyone, see you in the next video.